Habromania is a semi-2D RPG psychological puzzle horror game loosely based on Alice in Wonderland. I found out about this game a little while ago, but recently a demo for the game came out, so I decided to play it. So far, the game is actually really cool. I like the puzzles a lot, the art style is amazing, and the story intrigues me a lot. So here's everything we know about the story of the game based on what the creator has posted online. The story begins right after World War II with a girl named Cordelia, the 19-year-old daughter of a very well-off businessman. Cordelia was quite spoiled, but she and her father loved each other very much, and she was also very into romance novels and gardening and loved her cat. Her father, despite how much he loved her, decided to marry her off to a 40-year-old business partner of his, which she is completely against. However, she submits and marries the man. However, on their wedding night, her new husband demands she sleep with him and climbs on top of her, and her knee-jerk reaction is to stab him and he dies of blood loss. Her father learns of this and decides to purchase an entire asylum, one which was basically falling apart, and he turns it into the Roswell Institute for the Mentally Insane to ensure his daughter gets the help she needs. She is treated like a queen by the staff, but is usually heavily medicated and still feels like a prisoner. Her father is unable to face her, so he never visits, only ever sending her roses which she despises. She hates the institution, but manages to make one friend, a man named Charlie O'Hare. Charlie was the co-owner of a hat shop with his brother Lewis. Charlie was manic, but his brother always kept him calm until unfortunately he died of an illness. Charlie had gone into a depression and burned down their hat shop, and also unintentionally hurt Lewis's wife. He was not a violent person at all, but he ended up being sent to the Roswell Institute where he met Cordelia, and they grew to adore one another. As Charlie's time in the institute passed, he began to forget everything about his old life, including his name, identifying himself as the Hatter. He spent a lot of time talking to an invisible creature he called the Hare. Eventually, Cordelia got sick of being in the institute, and used her allowance to garden as a means to escape, hiding a hatchet and using that to break out at night. Unfortunately, she tripped and fell in a hole. She finds herself in Wonderland, being greeted by the Cheshire Cat, and he helps her try to escape. On her quest, she finds the Hatter, and the two work together to perform a ritual which should get them back to the surface world. Suffice it to say, it did not work, and by the end, for whatever reason, Cordelia wanted the Hatter beheaded, while the Hatter remained infatuated with her. The supposed Red Queen of Wonderland also somehow ends up dead, and Cordelia becomes the self-proclaimed Queen of Hearts, the new ruthless and violent dictator of Wonderland. She still wants to escape, and she constantly asserts dominance through violence, obsessing over her revenge on the Hatter. She declares that he will be executed at 5 p.m., but he avoids this by remaining in the tea party with his friends Dormouse and the March Hare for years, with his stopwatch frozen at 4:30 so that 5 p.m. never arrives. The main character of the story, like the original Alice in Wonderland story, is of course Alice. In this game, she's a 19-year-old girl whose wealthy parents sent her to the Roswell Institute due to her hysteria, easy excitability, easy distractibility, and endless curiosity. She is skeptical of many of the rules of the world, including the morals, and she is very empathetic and sometimes says morbid things due to the immense imagination that often gets the best of her. The Institute's staff repress her, as she never wants to take the drugs they give her, resists behavioral therapy, and just wants to be free to explore the world. She escapes the Institute through the gardens one night and ends up in Wonderland. She doesn't remember much, and she is greeted by the cat who helps her through Wonderland on her journey to escape. Many of the Wonderland inhabitants she meets do not help her, and the player can decide whether they want to do tasks to help them or force and manipulate her way through the obstacles. Which choices the player makes directly affects which of the 4 endings the player will get. Alice allies with the Hatter, who is initially afraid that she works for the Queen of Hearts, and it takes a while for her to gain his trust. He decides to help her, but only on the condition that he can see the love of his life, the Queen of Hearts, the very woman trying to kill him. The two work together and try to sneak into the Red Kingdom, but they get arrested immediately. Alice is able to squeeze out of a jail cell and meets the Queen of Hearts, convincing her to give the Hatter a trial rather than just beheading him. The judge for the trial, however, must be the White Rabbit, who is in the White Kingdom on the other side of Wonderland, so Alice has to go and convince him to be the judge for the trial. The Queen, however, doesn't play fair, and Alice has to be clever if she and the Hatter want to escape with their lives. One of the endings involves Alice making her way to the surface world and back to the institution, where it is revealed that her parents have authorized them to give her a lobotomy. It's up to her to decide whether to allow it or try to escape again. If she does not do the lobotomy, the cat visits her and helps her to escape, giving her the hatchet the Queen of Hearts once had. When he does this, she believes she now understands why, throughout her whole adventure, the cat had been laughing in amusement no matter the situation. Any and all institution staff are murdered by Alice, and she laughs maniacally as she escapes. Depending on the choices made throughout the game, the Hatter may escape with her too. So that is everything we know for sure, but there's a couple more things to note. We know Alice has a brother named Jack. He seems to have served in World War II, and there's a video on the creator's YouTube channel called He's Gone, where we see her driving with him in the passenger seat. The video is about a minute long, and it slowly zooms in on Alice as we hear a ringing sound grow louder and louder. In another video, we can see her sitting on the side of the road with Jack in her arms. Yet another video has an image of his body on the road with a strange white rabbit figure standing over him. So what does all this mean exactly? Well, it seems like Alice went through some sort of psychotic episode while she was driving, somehow resulting in Jack flying out of the car into the road and dying. Interestingly enough, one thing I mentioned earlier about the Hatter was how he sometimes spoke to a creature called the Hare, which was only visible to him. Given Alice's episode at this moment, it's possible the white rabbit figure actually is the Hare, and perhaps seeing it is what caused her to swerve and kill her brother in the first place. Another video, called Surprise, shows Alice making faces in the mirror until, out of nowhere, the cat appears. But if you pay close attention, as the cat is appearing, Alice's eyes are turning green, and she grins the same way the cat does. The cat's smile then appears in a different position from hers, meaning that rather than just popping up in front of her, the cat is quite literally possessing her. Notice how throughout the whole game, Alice has blue eyes, but in this image, which is based on the ending where she kills everyone in the Institute, her eyes are green. In addition, when she's holding her brother's body, her eyes are most prominently blue, but turn green every so often. Yet another video, titled The End, shows the aftermath of the ending where Alice and the Hatter escape the Institute. Once more, Alice's eyes are green, and every so often her smile fades, and as she blinks, they turn blue for a split second. Notice that, in the description of the plot where all this is revealed, the ending starts with her eyes still being blue, and they only turn green when she goes around killing everyone. The same even goes for Cordelia, who typically has blue eyes but has green eyes when she's in Wonderland as the Queen of Hearts. So what does this mean? Well, let's not forget that Alice supposedly understands why the cat has been so amused throughout the game as soon as she gets the hatchet, and that is when her eyes change colors to match the cat's. I think that the cat will be the overarching villain of the game, being the one influencing the evil decisions of both Alice and Cordelia. He will be the one that causes Alice to go on a rampage in the Asylum. He did say he'd help her escape Wonderland, and by giving her the hatchet, he does save her from ever having to go back there again. One last thing to note is that there's a couple of videos that show different aftermaths for the Queen of Hearts and the Hatter. One of these shows the Queen sitting across from the Hatter's skeleton and drinking tea. The skeleton has bugs crawling around it and it isn't moving one bit, meaning he has clearly died. This seems to be an ending where Alice fails to save the Hatter from dying, the Queen of Hearts succeeding in killing him, and finally being at peace. Meanwhile, there's what seems to be an alternate path where the Hatter is in anguish as he holds the dead body of Cordelia, and then he begins to dance with what seems like a lifeless version of her. One that no longer has her signature evil green eyes and has much more desaturated skin and minimal movement. It's like he's dancing with her corpse. This seems like the aftermath of Cordelia being the one to die, and the Hatter, being madly in love with her despite her immense desire to murder him, grieves her death and perhaps does not accept it. But that's just about everything to talk about. There's a lot of stuff on both the YouTube channel and the Instagram page of the creator, Symphony Sonata, so if you want a bit more in-depth stuff, you can definitely check those out. Overall, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe if you want to. As the game comes out, I will 100% be playing each and every chapter, and I might even make theory videos about it if I find enough to talk about that I haven't already. So if you're excited for the game, stay tuned. If you're a regular viewer of mine, I hope you've enjoyed hearing me talk about something other than FNAF. The last time I made a lore video about another game was a Bendy and the Dark Revival theory from almost 3 whole years ago, so this is a very rare occurrence for me. Mostly because lore-filled games that I start playing are ones where either the lore is basically spoon-fed to you, isn't interesting enough for me, or are ones that have been out for too long for me to bring anything new to the table, which is why I stick to FNAF theories and will continue to do so. But if anything new catches my eye, I will cover it if I can find enough to discuss. If you are a new viewer who only found this video in a search for theories on the game, consider subscribing if you are excited for the future of this game, or if you happen to also like FNAF theories. I also do streams all the time playing through games I either haven't played before or really like, including Resident Evil, the Batman Arkham games, Silent Hill, and in the near future the Telltale Walking Dead games. So if my streams interest you, consider sticking around for those as well. Anyway, that's all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!